Although Kickstarter is a graveyard of failed dreams and ideas, there are some absolutely brilliant Kickstarter projects that deserves to be remembered through eternity. Here are the 14 most successful synth projects that not only are awesome, but are truly inspirational as well. Starting from the bottom and finishing with the most successful Kickstarter for synths ever. Let's begin. At number 14 comes this compact synth from Fred's Lab in Germany that packs some crazy specifications. Just listen to this: 6-voice polyphony, 4-part multitimbral, wavetables, ring modulation, FM synthesis with the possibility to create your own waveforms, an analog filter, 2 envelopes and 2 LFOs, delay and storage up to 100 internal presets. Just by reading the specifications, it's clear that we are not talking about a happy amateur developer here. The developer have previously worked with prestigious projects like the Arturia Mini Brute 2, Microfreak and Waldorf Pulse 2. The project ended in 2021 with funding 42,000 euros from the goal of 40,000. The early bird price of the Toro was 350 euro, and it can still be bought from the developer for 400 euro plus shipping. And the unit is still seeing firmware updates.
Successful Kickstarter.
Also from Germany comes a modular synthesizer with the goal of being a modular synth for everyone. Now, that is a bold statement. And me personally, whenever I hear the word Eurorack, I smile and quickly go back to where I came from. Don't get me wrong, I love the concept of modulars. I just enjoy having a life. The concept behind AE Modular is like when Modular went Eurorack and became affordable, fun and experimental. This is the next step, making modulars even more affordable by taking 3 important steps. First, making the modules smaller. Secondly, patching is not done by mini jack cables, but by simple patch wires. Thirdly, the cover plates are cheaper and less perfect. The result of the price squeeze is impressive. The Wasp filter for Eurorack costs around 100 euros and the Wasp filter for the AE Modular costs less than 40 euro. The project ended in 2016 with funding 47,000 euros from the goal of 19,000. AE Modular can still be bought from the developer for 396 euro plus shipping, and the developer has since its release created a large ecosystem of modules. As I said, I'm personally not much into modulars, but this system even makes me interested. Only for scientific purposes, of course. Interesting fact: mini modulars seems to be a winner these days. During the summer of 2024, a new, even more compact and cheaper modular system arrived on Kickstarter. It's called MicroRack and blew away its funding goals rather quickly.
Successful Kickstarter.
In 2020, a new fresh take on the old synthesizer concept was born in France. Being described as an affordable synthesizer that allows you to create sounds inspired from the physical world, where objects collide, vibrate and resonate. In other words, a physical modeling synthesizer. While monophonic, today the Phi contains almost 140 modules to build sounds, which sonically sounds like a combination of classic physical modeling and traditional synthesis. It sounds organic, yet unmistakably synthetic. The Kickstarter was fully funded in 3 days and managed to bring in 67,000 euros with a goal of 35,000 euros. The super early bird price for the Phi was 299 euro, but it can still be bought from the developer for €450. Since the Kickstarter, the ecosystem of modules to build your sounds have expanded from 69 modules to 136. If you feel this project sounds interesting, keep watching. This is not the only product from this developer. Interesting development. In the summer of 2024, the developer released a software version of the Fi for Windows, Mac and Linux.
Successful Kickstarter.
From the same developer who made the first entry in our list, the Manatee is described as being a multitimbral spectral synthesizer with full MPE capabilities. The synth has 16 voices and is 4-part multitimbral and is based on a blend between additive and wavetable synthesis. The Manatee also includes traditional virtual analog oscillators and a simple 2-operator FM. Each voice has 2 oscillators, advanced noise and ring modulator, a multimode filter, saturator, envelopes and LFOs. The Kickstarter was funded quickly and brought in €78,000 with the goal of €60,000. The early bird price for the Manatee was €544, but it can be bought directly from the developer for €799. The Manatee was finally released to the last backer in August 2024, and if comparing to the Toro, it will most likely have years of updates into the future.
Successful Kickstarter.
In 2015, Canadian Kilpatrick Audio started a Kickstarter for realizing their Phenol synthesizer, which they describe as a patchable analog synthesizer, and what I would describe as an analog modular without the modules, neatly fitted all together in one well-designed desktop unit. In Phenol, nothing is patched for you, and you do all of the patching yourself. Not with the mini jack cables common with Eurorack, but with old school banana patch cords. There are 2 oscillators, 2 filters, 2 amplifiers, 2 envelopes, 1 LFO, a mixer and an adder where you can mess with the control signal for all kinds of fun. The Kickstarter became funded almost 3 times over and brought in $142,000 Canadian dollars with a goal of $55,000, which is around $100,000. Today, the Phenol is still listed at Kilpatrick Audio's webpage, but is marked as sold out at the making of this video.
Successful Kickstarter.
People who subscribe to my channel know how often I complain about the lack of innovative polyphonic standalone samplers. And the only thing I complain about Wofi is that I missed to get on the Kickstarter. But according to the developer, Kiwiak Instruments, it shouldn't be long until Wofi will be out in the wild. Wofi is a polyphonic sampler with hands-on controls, a step sequencer, it runs on batteries, has built-in speakers, and it tries to emulate classic samplers of old. One very unique aspect of the Wofi is that it can, but it doesn't have to, automatically connect to your Wi-Fi and download sounds from a cloud server. The Kickstarter passed its goal by a thread. They asked for €100,000 and with almost 200 backers, they managed to get €105,000. The early birds could buy it for €599 and will probably cost around €799 when it will be out in the shops.
Successful Kickstarter.
From Japan comes the synth 8-bit Warps, a groovebox that draws its inspiration from 8-bit sound engines of old. Behind the synth stands the Tokyo-based company Sonicware, which sort of specializes itself on exploring modern synthesis using sound engines from old game consoles like the Mega Drive and Game Boys. 8-bit Warps has 4 separate sound engines, a polyphony of 6 voices, and patch storage of up to 128 sounds. It has built-in effects, a step sequencer with up to 128 steps. It is compatible with Teenage Engineering Pocket Operator Synth, has a built-in speaker and runs on batteries. The Kickstarter passed its goal by more than 4 times. They asked for 5 million yen, which is about $30,000, and with over 900 backers they managed to get over 20 million yen, which is more than $130,000. The synth is still being made and have reached version 3 in firmware updates. As a fun side note, Sonicware is quite well known on Kickstarter and have used the platform to bring out many other interesting products with the same form factor, including the Lo-Fi 12 XT sampler, which managed to rake in almost 16 million yen.
Successful Kickstarter.
If you ever wondered what a Roland SH-101 would look like in 2024, SB-01 from Superlative is probably the closest thing anyone with a love for that era could come. The SB-01 was announced in 2019 and was expected to ship 1 year later. While 2020 was a difficult year for many companies, with all their plans going out the window, here we are almost 5 years later and the SB-01 is finally getting ready to be released. The synth engine is said to perfectly recreate the original tone, has a step sequencer with up to 256 steps, comes with a built-in battery, and can of course be turned into a keytar. The Kickstarter passed its goal by almost the double. They asked for $101,000 and with 202 backers they managed to get $178 for building the SB-01. The early birds could buy it for $899, no release date yet or retail price. Last sign of life was in July 2024.
Successful Kickstarter.
From Koma Elektronik in Germany comes the biggest Kickstarter success of the summer 2024. The Chromaplane is an experimental polyphonic synthesizer based on electromagnetic fields, which you can play with your hands using small pickups. The electromagnetic fields are tunable in any way you like, from normal scales to innovative micro-tunings. The interesting part happens when you play more than one field at the same time. Apart from creating normal intervals, you can create dissonant sounds or detuned electromagnetic fields. The developer is also creating a Max for Live device to talk to the hardware. The Kickstarter passed its goal by more than 6 times its goal. The funding goal was set to €33,000 and reached almost €204 with almost 500 backers.
Successful Kickstarter.
Almost as popular as synthesizers are projects that help the users to create and come up with chords. Chord is a little gizmo that lets you explore chords in a very portable form factor. It has a built-in synth engine, speaker, it runs on batteries, it has 10 buttons, a small display and a joystick. The idea behind Chord is based on the Nashville number system for creating chords, which is described by Wikipedia in this way. The Nashville number system is a trick that musicians use to figure out chord progressions on the fly. It is an easy tool to use if you understand how music works. It has been around for about 400 years, but sometime during the past 50 years, Nashville got the credit. The Kickstarter flew by its goal by almost 10 times its goal, with almost 800 backers. In Canadian money, they asked for $30,000 and they received almost $290,000. The campaign ended in June 2024 and the production is planned for the summer 2024 with shipping in August. There is no information on when the Chord will be available for direct purchase.
Successful Kickstarter.
In the fourth place of the most successful Kickstarters comes a gorgeous-looking modular system from Pittsburgh Modular. Just another Eurorack modular, you might ask yourself. Yes and no. While the synth looks to be a normal Eurorack in a stylish enclosure, the components themselves are described as extremely deep and wildly experimental, and has been influenced by the behaviors and systems of the natural world. Keywords are chaos, complex waveforms, and interaction. The Kickstarter aimed for $60,000 and collected 4 times that amount, almost $270,000. In January 2020, the last units were shipped to the backers. Today, the modular cannot be bought, but is going to be replaced by an updated version that is going to be released in the summer of 2024.
Successful Kickstarter.
In the third place of the most successful Kickstarters is a project that, well, does things quite differently. It describes itself as a soundscape synthesizer, which can generate not only complex soundscapes but also melodies using a harmonic quantizer with selectable scales. Alt has also a microphone and 2 light sensors that can be used to modulate the sounds. The synth has 5 voices, 1 Korg MS-20 stereo filter, a delay, also in stereo, and a modulation pin matrix. The Kickstarter ended in June 2024 and managed to blow past its goal of €40,000 in only 4 minutes, ending up collecting almost €290,000 for over 300 backers. The delivery is set to happen early 2025.
Successful Kickstarter.
Back in the 11th place we had the Phi Physical Modeling Synthesizer. If you thought that this sounded like a cool idea, the Omega is the next logical step up the ladder of evolution. While the Phi had charming design aesthetics focusing on function, the Omega looks like a real synthesizer with lots of controls, colored buttons and a colored display. It comes both in keyboard and desktop format, and apart from the improved design, the Omega is polyphonic with 16 voices and has the ability to layer and split sounds directly. The Kickstarter was successful, with bringing in almost 3 times its goal of €80,000. With almost 230 backers, it managed to secure €280,000 plus 100,000 from Indiegogo. It was supposed to have been released in December 2023, but due to problems when sourcing all the parts, the project have been delayed, but is supposed to be released in 2024.
Successful Kickstarter.
Yes, you guessed it. The winner for the most successful Kickstarter for synthesizers goes to Chompy. The tape-inspired sampler with big bright buttons that proves once and for all that everything sells 10 times better if you put a cute smiling face on your product. Chompy is the archetype of a one-trick pony and can be described as a digital stereo sampler / looper that works a lot like old tape machines. You can sample material, quickly record IDs, then layer the recording with new material with the looper. It has effects, 7 notes of polyphony, and can record up to 6 hours of stereo samples. It has a micro SD card slot for samples and a built-in microphone. What makes Chompy so special is that the workflow makes this kind of sound design fun and effortless. And even if you know nothing about sound design, this thing absolutely invites you to find new combinations of sounds and phrases. The Kickstarter aimed for the goal of $30,000, and with the help of 2,200 backers, They managed to bring in over $1.2 million in funding. The final batch of Chompies were delivered early January 2024 and can now be bought for $600 from their web shop or selected resellers. Users are reporting that the developers are constantly working on the firmware and the unit has excellent support. Since its release, Chompy have released 2 special edition and spare parts so you can stylize the hardware the way you want it.
Successful Kickstarter.
So, there you have it. The 14 most successful Kickstarter campaigns ever. My personal favorites are the AE Modular, the Vo-Fi, the SB01, if it will ever be released, the Chroma Plane, and of course, Chompy. Nothing beats instruments with friendly faces on them. What are your favorites? Let me know in the comments below.